Everyone, and welcome back to the Welcome Home podcast. I am so glad to be with you today, and I am also thrilled to be able to announce we have a special guest speaker for this episode. Kate, how do you say your last name?
Battistelli. It's a hard one. We hear everything.
Yeah, I bet. And I didn't want to be one of those people.
No, that's fine.
Kate Battistelli, she's an author, speaker, and podcaster. She is actually a best-selling author, I should say, and she's a former Broadway actress, and now she encourages women to embrace every season that God gives them in their lives. She's the author of The After Party of the Empty Nest, which just came out last year, The God Dare, and Growing Great Kids, which was her first book, and I know that we'll talk a lot about that. And you're also the co-host of the very popular Mom to Mom podcast.
Yes, but we've suspended for a while, which is unfortunate, but yeah, we're taking some time away, but we've got 5 years of episodes still out, so.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, we were together for 5 years, but for right now.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is a lot of work to run a podcast. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so part of your story is that as a young actress in New York City, your life was changed in a moment when you went from being the understudy to the leading lady, starring as Anna in the Broadway national tour of The King and I opposite Yul Brenner. For more than 1,000 performances, which is amazing. And I love Yul Brenner. I really do.
Oh, I do too.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But despite that, you and your husband laid down your careers in the Broadway theater in answer to your first God Dare, moving out of New York City and into a life of parenthood, homeschooling, and home business. And now you're in Tennessee and writing and blessing other Christian women. And it is just so great to have you with us today, Kate. I'm very blessed by you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So I want to talk about your first book first, Growing Great Kids. You were sharing with me in pre-show a little bit about how that came to be and how God had nudged you. And I'm wondering if you could share a little bit with our listeners about how God spoke to you for the 15 things that you and your husband ended up writing down and how all that came to be. Give us a little framework on that.
Okay, you want to hear the whole story I told you before?
Yeah,
I can make it quick, but
yeah,
our daughter, if you know Francesca Battistelli, she's done real well in Christian music, so a lot of people know her name. And by this point,
wait, hold on, I'm having a moment. Francesca Battistelli is your daughter?
Yeah.
My gosh, that's amazing. I'm a huge fan. And I just put that together.
That's funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Mama.
Thank you. It was all me. No, she's got 7 kids, which is amazing because we just had her. She was the one God gave us. We wanted a big family, but God said no, and that's fine. You know, I've got 7 grandkids, so I still get the enjoyment of a big family without having to have them all the time.
Yes. Or have them yourself.
So, but we were living in Florida and we'd homeschooled her most of her life. Oh, and I just wanted to tell your listeners, and we may get to this, that we didn't know the Lord when we were doing the whole Broadway thing. And the reason we left all that is because we got saved. And the Lord told us to lay it down, but that's a whole other story. But so we're living in Florida. She's already gone off on her career. She's starting to get her name known. She's on the radio, having hits, all that stuff. So the gal that ran our big homeschool organization, she called me one night and she said, Kate, we're having our big 25th anniversary. We want you and Mike to come and tell us, what did you do to raise your daughter to not just find her purpose and destiny, but to continue following the Lord, because so many kids walk away. They get, they're no longer made to go to church, for many of them, especially it's getting worse, which although there's a whole faction of younger people coming back to church, which is really exciting.
Yes.
But so they said, we've got to know, what did you do? You got to tell our parents. And I thought, oh gosh, I hung up and I looked at my husband. I said, what the heck did we do? Because you're just, you're trying to raise your kids biblically, but there's no one book laying it all out. But we sat down and we actually came up with 15 things. And I thought, okay, we did I guess a good job because she's doing her thing. And so, I don't know, a couple of weeks later, we give our talk. The parents really enjoyed it. I was so happy that it, went well. So the next day I'm praying, thanking the Lord. And as soon as I thanked him for those 15 things, I heard the Lord speak in my spirit, and he said, those are book chapters. And I just thought, I'm not a writer. I don't want to write a book. I didn't finish college. I told you I went to 4 colleges in 2 years, didn't graduate from any of them because I wanted to do the musical theater thing. I'm not a parenting expert. No one will publish it. No one will read it. Just all the excuses we give to God when he gives us something, what I call a God dare. He dares us, come out of your comfort zone, do this crazy thing. You have no clue how to do it, but I'll show you. So it was a huge leap of faith for me. And I always knew I could write because I journaled. I mean, I was a decent writer, but I never wanted to be an author. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It just never entered my mind till God said, you're doing this. And I met a friend. I said, she was a writing coach. I said, you've got to help me because you know more about writing than I do, clearly. So we went out to lunch and I showed her my 15 things and said, is it a book? She said, yep, this is a book. I'll help you get started. You're going to write it. We're going to get it published, which all happened. And it just, it's how God does stuff but if he calls you to it, he has to equip you to do it. So he equipped me. He gave me the people around me that I needed. He just gave me the inspiration. I had all my chapters, which that doesn't always happen. You're a writer. Right. Just like that's a miracle.
It is.
Got them all just kind of laid out like that.
It is.
So, yeah. So
and I can attest to that too, because that's how my story started with Welcome Home, a guide to homemaking from the heart, and God giving me that assignment because I did not wake up on January 1st of 2025 and say, gee, you know what? I'm going to write a book. It just wasn't at all on my radar. And I've shared this before. I'm very open about my NICU story. My daughter, who turns 3 at the time of this recording, she turns 3 on Monday. And she's a miracle baby. And she was born 3 months early at 1 pound. And we had tubes living and breathing for her and doing all her vital organ system functioning for 3 months, and then she was discharged on oxygen and a feeding tube for the first year and a half of her life. So she was a year and a half and I'm feeding my daughter through a tube. It was just wild, and all the therapies and everything like that. And so coming off of that chronic stress, trauma and surviving and things like that. I just, not to mention what you can just go through in your body hormonally and chemically. After childbirth, did not plan on writing this book at all. But God gave me the mission, the title, who to dedicate it to, and then came home, as I mentioned, put my baby down for a nap, and the chapters titles flew out of me. But I do understand, so we have that in common, which is really sensational, but I understand that is not common.
No. No. But sometimes it's the way God, it's not common maybe for writing books, but I think it's more common than we think. I think God is telling people all the time, I have this thing for you, go out and do it. And we don't. We're afraid, or we're stuck in our comfort zone, or we're lazy. I mean, there's a million reasons why we don't. But I think he's doing it all the time. It's just we have to listen.
Yes, indeed. Listen and follow, because we do have to put the action in there too. So your 15 ways to grow great kids, what are your top 3?
I think my one is how you speak to your kids. The Bible says death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. And I find it interesting it starts with death, because what we speak creates. Every single word we say, what we hear, faith comes by hearing, right? Jesus said so many times, he who has an ear to hear. And it's what we say to our kids. It's so easy to cut them down or say, because I grew up that way. It was like, oh, don't be so stupid, and you're this and you're that. And I carried that for a long time, thinking, you think those negative things about you. So it's not you want to just say to your kids, oh, you're wonderful, you're fabulous, everything's gonna be great, because that's not always true, but speaking life over them. So I determined, because I didn't grow up in a Christian home. So because I didn't none of that was done for me. Once I really understood the power of our words, my husband and I agreed, we're going to speak life over her. We're going to speak scripture. We're going to put her name right in there. And you can do that with your kids. Just whatever your favorite scriptures are, stick their name in there, because it's true. Let them know, who are they in Christ? How does he see them? So that was a big one for me, is the words that we speak, because growing up, I didn't have that. It's just like, parents, you've got to be careful what you say, because they hear everything, So that's a big one. Another big one was modeling integrity. And I think I always say this, is that children follow what you model. They hear you and they see you. And if you're saying one thing and doing another, we say we're such a good Christian on Sunday, and on Monday we're watching R-rated movies and we're swearing, you know what I mean? And we're saying that little lie on the phone. Well, they won't know. I'm just going to tell them I'm sick. That kind of stuff. Kids see that. And I'm just proud of my husband, because he always modeled an integrity-filled life. I mean, there were times when, just things that my daughter saw that he went through, just tough times, and how he handled it. And I think that's another big one. Kids see that, and we want to live our lives, especially now. It's harder with the internet. We didn't have that when she was growing up. I think she was 18 before Facebook came out, and I'm very grateful she wasn't bombarded with what's bombarding us today. So it's harder to live a life of integrity. You have to purpose to do it. It has to be important to you. So those are two big ones, having them be diligent. I've given you a job to do, you're going to do it. We always told Franny when she was little, if you've committed to something, you're going to do it. And it might be a cold night, but you've committed to go and do that outdoor thing. We just weren't going to let her off the hook unless she was really sick or something, because that's integrity also, but it's sticking with your commitment. So there's just all kinds of things like that in there that, I mean, the book came out in 2012, so I'm wanting to redo it, which I will, but still the things that are in there are pretty foundational for raising kids that are going to follow the Lord, that it's not just so much you have to go to church and you have to believe in God. It's raising them where they want to. Where they see that there's something real about this. I've seen it change my parents' lives. So I think that can really make a big difference.
Very good. Now, in what ways would you redo it? Is it the fact you have 7 grandkids under your belt now? You have a little more?
Some of that, but also there was I had different people that I knew back then that contributed some. I would probably take them out. I have pictures that I would take out. I mean, the writing could be better. I would re-edit it. So I would like to keep it simpler, just shorter chapters. Back then they wanted 60,000 words. Today, not necessarily quite as much. So I would shorten it to make it easier for moms who don't have as much time.
Exactly. We're very time poor. It's definitely a thing. Kate, I know you also talk about infertility and miscarriage. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, that was a real hard season for me, because I wanted a big family. Mike and I saw myself with 5 kids. And when she was about 2.5, I had an ectopic pregnancy, a tubal pregnancy, which when we found out on a Friday that I was pregnant, everybody was excited. This is going to be great. Monday morning, which was Labor Day, I can't remember the year, but I just wasn't feeling good. My stomach, I thought, it's something I ate, or I have gas or something, because I think I was only 8 weeks pregnant, and something just wasn't right. And I was feeling worse and worse as the day went on. And finally it got to the point where if I tried to stand up, I would faint. Because what happens with an ectopic pregnancy, you're bleeding internally. It's the number one cause of maternal death, because you don't know. I just knew I was a lot of pain, but I'm bleeding to death. Finally, Mike called the ambulance. They came, took me to the hospital. I was there for 4 days just because of the blood loss and all of that. It was really an awful time. And then after that, we went through, I wanted another baby and wanted to have a big family. So we tried different fertility treatments. Nothing worked. The last time I remember going to the doctor and he did whatever this last test was, it didn't work. And he was just very cavalier and said, well, you can always adopt. You'll never have another baby. And it was like,
Wow.
Lord, which we tried 4 times and 4 times it fell through. But I was really mad at God for a long time because I was a fairly new Christian. We got saved at 29 and I was like 33 or something at this point. So I hadn't known the Lord and walked with him a real long time. And at church, they would always say, God's a good, good father. He gives you good gifts. And I'm like, God, what I want is a good thing. I want to raise kids to know you, and you're not giving me that good thing. You're not being a good father. And I was mad for a few years. I mean, it was a hard time for me because all I could see was what I didn't have. I couldn't see what was right in front of me. And it was by that we were living in New Jersey when that happened. Then we moved to Florida, and I was with a real good, strong group of women that were able to mentor me. And I was on the worship team because I had been a singer. And we went to a worship conference one weekend, and I remember just being down, still affected by all this, but being down at the front, just worshiping, trying to let all this go. And it was the second time I heard the Lord speak in my spirit, and he said, am I enough? And I mean, something in me just broke off because, God does not ask a question he can't answer. And then he said, I am. And it's like everything in me, I just said, Lord, I repented. I'd been so wrong. And I said, Lord, if you don't ever give me one more thing, you are enough. And that ended that season of just being miserable and hurt and thinking, God, you don't even like me. You're not listening to me. I mean, I would go across the house. Mike was asleep, and I would just yell at God, and he can take it. If anybody's listening that's mad at God right now, or that thing's not happening, he can take it. You can yell at him. You can, because there's things in life we don't like. There's still things in my life that I would say, God, you could really change this if you wanted to, but he allows what he allows, but that was a hard season, but a good season, because I learned those things, and it's allowed me to minister to other women that are dealing with that, that have tried to adopt, that are dealing with infertility where you don't have any children. I have one, thank the Lord, but it's just hard when there's that thing you want that God just says no. I see it now, and one thing I always tell women, time will give perspective, because I see now what the Lord did with our daughter. Had we had 5 kids, we wouldn't have had the money or the time to take her where God was taking her. You know what I mean? So it's gonna make sense. It may feel like crap right now and be really hard, but eventually you're gonna go, God, I see why you did that. I see why you allowed that. And it might be 20 years. I mean, I can't promise it's going to be in 6 months.
Right.
But he doesn't give you more than you can handle. I hate that, because he does, because he's supposed to handle it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But he doesn't give you more than you won't someday understand.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's going to be when you get to heaven and you go, Lord, what was that? And he's going to go, here's what it was. Oh, okay, that makes total sense. He loves us too much to not, I don't know, to just let us wallow in despair. But it's up to us. I had to repent. He had to talk to me because I was that miserable. It was like, okay, the only way I'm going to get through to you, I'm going to tell you that this is enough. Like, enough of this. I've got you. I've got your future. And it's hard. It's just hard to grasp that. To think that, why would he care about me? And I know there's stuff in my past. There's some real ugly stuff that I can't even believe he forgave me for. But he does. That's the thing, that he loves us. For your listeners, whatever it is, he loves you so much. He has, if you've repented and asked him to forgive you, whatever that was is as far as the east is from the west. He is not holding that against you. You're holding it against yourself, but he's not. So just, if I can encourage you, let that go. Because he loves you regardless.
Oh, and now I think that's just I'm at a loss for words on how he had the plan for your daughter from the get-go. And now she is world famous in Christian praise and worship music. Francesca Battistelli, like she's a household name, and she's ministering to other families and other women, and That's so beautiful. And it's given you 7 grandchildren of your own. And so, yeah.
And what's so interesting about all that, I told you a little beforehand that Mike and I were in the New York theater world. He's conducting on Broadway. We're doing all these things. And then we meet the Lord. And the Lord tells us, like Abraham, leave everything you know, go to a land that I'll show you, but I'm not going to tell you. My husband has a doctorate in music. I mean, none of it made any sense. It was like, this is not the life that I have for you. And because we were obedient in that, because all I wanted was to be famous. You know, I wanted to win a Tony. I wanted everybody to know who I was. And I just sensed the Lord saying, I couldn't use you because you wanted it for yourself, but I could take it through your daughter. Our ceiling became her floor because she got my talent. I was a great singer. I'm not so much anymore, but you know, I had all that went down to her because God could use her. He couldn't use me in that way. He's using me in other ways. But you know what I mean? It's like how our ceiling became her floor. It just that's the phrase God's always given us.
That. So. I have to write that down. That's so good.
And it's just, you know, obedience has a cost, but it has a reward. And the cost for us was leaving the life. My husband, he'd been in music for not decades, he was only in his 30s, but years, both of us climbing the ladder, wanting fame and fortune, doing everything. And then God says, lay that down, walk away. We're like, well, now what do we do? You know, we had no clue. Well, we had a home business. We figured it out, and everybody thought we were crazy because those things just don't make sense. But the power of them further on, you know, again, we couldn't see it then. Now it totally makes sense. But at the time, it was just like, okay, I guess we need to do this. We think that's the Lord. We've been saved 2 years. I think God's telling us to leave. And I'm so glad we did. I wouldn't go back for anything.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Listen and follow. That's what my pastor always says, listen and follow. And as you mentioned, where God guides, he provides. I've heard that my whole life. But I love how you said, my kind of paraphrase, where God guides, it's on him to provide. Because I think that, now I'm a type A personality style, and so that's, you know, driven and ambitious and all of those things. And so for me, in my younger years, and even particularly in the years that I was not walking with the Lord, I was raised in the faith, turned away when I was 14 because of some things that, you know, were going on with my family. My dad left my family and still professed to be a Christian, and, you know, some church hurt and things like that. And I walked away for 11 years. And, you know, if I had heard that, I would have thought, well, if it's to be, it's up to me. You know, that platitude. And it's just really, really wonderful to sit and rest in the knowledge that where God guides, it's on him to provide, and he will make a way.
He has to, because we can't do it without him. I can't really function without the Lord. When I try to do it on my own, that's not pretty.
Yeah. You know? It's not pretty. I know, right? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh man. So, you know, your most recent book, The After Party of the Empty Nest, you also have a devotional companion with the same name. And I love how your kind of, not subtitle, but your tagline is, Mom is not your only name. Now, I mentioned that in December, God put on my heart to talk to my audience about our granddaughters and who we want to be for them, and starting our mothering journey, or being in the earlier years of our mothering journey, thinking with that end in mind. So what can you tell me about the empty nest and some of the things you have to say in your book?
Well, the empty nest, it's one of those things that can descend on you if you've not planned for it, like I didn't. We were so involved with our daughter, with, you know, when all the Nashville stuff started happening and record deals and all this, we were so involved with that. I didn't think there's going to be a day when she's gone. And with only one child, you don't have those, what I call backup siblings, you know, to kind of, because it's hard.
I love that, the backups.
Yeah. You know, it was just, I'm looking around an empty house going, well, that was fun. You know, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Which is what so many of us get to that point where we're just like, I never thought about this. I didn't plan for it. I have no idea what's next. There's some women who are the smart ones who do think about it. They may already be in it. You're already in something. You're writing, you're podcasting. Now, when your kids, it's a few years before they're in their empty nest, but you're you're already kind of moving in that direction, doing what God wants you to do. But many of us don't know. We don't have a clue. I mean, I didn't, all the writing stuff, none of that was in my mind. So it took me a while, but I started volunteering, which was great because it gets you out of yourself. You know, we can't sit on the couch and watch Netflix and eat Cheetos for the next 40 years because we have probably a good 40 years before God's taking us, you know? So what's my next thing? Mom is not my only name. We get into that because mom is our only job for so long, especially if you've got a bunch of kids. I mean, the work I see my daughter do, the amount of laundry, just every time I go, I say, give me 3 baskets, I'll just start. You know, the amount of food, when we stayed there this past weekend, and the amount of food you're cooking for 7 kids, it's a lot. So any of you moms out there, I feel you. But that becomes our identity. And that's not our identity. It's an identity. It's an important job. I mean, it's critical what we're doing, how we're raising our kids, but it's not the only thing. You're going to have those years. What's your position now? This has really been hitting me in the last couple of years that I believe we're in the end times. I don't know how people in your audience feel, but I think Jesus is coming back sooner than we think.
I think so too.
And we could have been put on this planet in the 1800s, in the, you know, way back. God said, no, I'm saving you till now. This is when I want you because you have a specific purpose for my kingdom. And if we think of it that way, it's a little guilt inducing. It's like, oh God, Lord, what am I, you know, okay, what do you want me to do? And it can be, you know, writing books or having songs on the radio. It can be anything, or it can be as simple as God telling you, I want you to go minister to those people in the Alzheimer's unit in your hospital. You know, I want you to foster a child. I want you to, there's a million things. It doesn't have to be big. It's all big. You know, obedience is obedience. It's all big in God's eyes. He's not measuring, oh, well, she did this. You know, she has 10,000 followers and she only had what? He doesn't do that.
No.
He's looking at our heart. Are we going to do what he's telling us to do? Because as we do that, then oftentimes then the next step and the next thing. But will we be faithful with what he's putting in our hands and telling us to do today? So that's what I try and encourage these women. Say, you're going to mourn. It is perfectly fine to be grief-stricken for a while. It's hard. You have your first child go. I mean, there's just nothing like it. But you can't stay there forever. You have to get out of that. I compare the different types of empty nest moms to different types of birds. And there's the swallow mom who's like, she's ready to go. Okay, bye kids. I'm moving into this next thing. I'm starting that business I always wanted to start, or whatever that is. Then there's the mourning dove moms, and they're just the ones that are miserable. It's like, this was the only thing in my life that was good, and nothing else is ever going to compare. And then there's the Robin moms, who's what I was. We're kind of both. It's like, I know there's more. I don't know what it is. And I really hate this empty nest thing, but it's we can't get stuck in that grief. Go through it. Women whose kids are graduating this year and they're going off in September, this is their time to really feel it. And it's hard. And there's nothing to make it easy other than now start thinking about it. And if you're a younger mom who's got a few years, start digging in with the Lord. Okay, Lord, what is that next thing? Do you want me to get my college degree that I never got? Do you want me to open that business? What is it? What is that thing? Because now is the time for younger moms. You can start doing those things. You don't have to wait and go back to college all at once. Take one course. Start working on it, because by the end of a year, you've got a lot done. You know what I mean? You've pushed yourself forward and you've accomplished a lot more than if you just sat around, But with little kids at home, you're not. But even if you're just thinking, okay, I'm supposed to go into politics or business, well, start volunteering as best you can. Get somebody in that field to mentor you. There's so many ways to do this. But we all have a position, and we've got to find out, Lord, what do you have for me? What is that thing? Do we have time for a quick story?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes,
I don't want to make this too long, but if your listeners have heard of a man named Reinhard Bonnke, he was an evangelist. He was like the Billy Graham of Africa. Millions came into the kingdom through him. He's good to look up because he was just an amazing evangelist. Well, at the height of his ministry, the Lord told him one day, he said, "You were not my first choice. You were my third choice." So imagine, I just think, well, how humbling that would be, but it's probably good to hear. But what about those other 2 guys? I'm assuming they're guys because it was an era, a little while back, but they get to heaven and God says, look what I had for you. And you turned it down. And who knows why?
Interesting.
I can't say
Interesting.
judge them for why, but I don't want to be those guys.
No.
I missed the Lord for 29 years. I didn't follow him. I didn't know anything about him. So there's a lot in my book that's empty. I'm like, Lord, I don't want to miss one more thing you've written in my book. I don't want to come up there and see it scratched out. There's a whole chunk that's scratched. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I want to make sure I don't miss what you're telling me to do. Good, bad, ugly, hard, easy, whatever it is. I just don't want to miss it. So if we put our minds that way, it makes it easier to do the hard things,
I love that. Yeah, and we are called to be good stewards. I've been reading the book The Parables of Jesus by David Wenham, and time again Jesus talked about being a good steward and the fact that to him whom much is given, much is expected.
Yeah.
And the idea that our kids turn 18 really fast. Yeah, and then head out on their own lives. And because your daughter's a Grammy Award winner and it was obviously successful from a young age, and you and your husband were beautifully positioned to support her with that. But I would almost think that her success and achievements in her young life would make it even a little easier for her to leave home, because you would think, oh well, she's got to go, she's got to fly, she's got to continue on in her kingdom work of Christian music. But it's true. It's never really going to be easy, and it's always going to bring with it a life transition for us, whether that's a good thing and you're happy the kids are out or not, and we're called to be good stewards of our time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you talk about husbands. How do husbands handle the empty nest?
It's different for men, because women were typically with them more, right?
Yeah.
And women tend to be more emotional. Men are a little more stoic, and they're not going to necessarily tell you that they're having a hard time, especially if they've got boys that they used to do all the stuff with and go camping and basketball and all those things. I mean, it just depends. All families are different, but I think men handle it a little differently. My husband was working, so it was easier. I'm sitting home going, well, I have nothing to do, and I found stuff to do, but he was busy. He's always worked at home, but for those first couple of years, he was working out of the home. So I was doubly miserable. It's like, there's nobody here. So they do handle it a little differently. But one of the scary things of the empty nest, there's a thing called gray divorce, where the kids are gone. The mom and dad are looking at each other going, I've put so much focus on the kids, I don't even know you, and I don't know if I like you. And it's becoming more and more common because they're not making time to be together, to be with each other. So I have a whole chapter just on dating ideas in the book for how to keep your marriage strong, because he was there before the kids, and he'll be there afterwards. So press in now. If you've got a few years before the kids are gone, even if it's you've got kids at home and it's just crazy, find another friend who will take your kids for a night. You go have a date. You take their kids. Find somebody to trade with, or grandparents. Well, they come and watch them so they can have a date night. You've got to keep your marriage fresh. You've got to keep it exciting. And with a lot of kids, with my daughter, it's hard, but she does take that time. Now, also, sometimes she goes away. She just did a conference, and the two of them went, so they have some alone time. But that's also the pressure of ministry and all that stuff.
Yes,
but
exactly.
they do make time to do date nights.
Yeah.
You have to. You'll go crazy if you don't. So make that a priority so you don't become a statistic.
I love that. That's so good. I feel like there's a whole topic there because I just love the phrase, and anyone that knows me knows that I love the phrase beginning with the end in mind. And I know I've already said it, already mentioned it, but thinking about what you want your relationship to look like on the back end is so, so valuable. Wow, that's such great advice. Kate, amazing. I am just thrilled to pieces to get to speak with you today and have you bless the listeners of the Welcome Home podcast. And so your book, The After Party of the Empty Nest, as well as Growing Great Kids and The God Dare. So all of those books are available on Amazon and everywhere books are sold, right? Very good.
Should be.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have a website too, katebattistelli.com.
Yeah.
So yeah, listeners can reach you there and tune in to more of the goodness that you have to share with Christian wives and mothers. So I thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is a great conversation.
Wonderful. All right. And as I always like to say, bye for now.